you can be extremely safe and just have one, if you're using the old relays, like, for instance, the Dutchman HAFC system. That relay goes out, you turn your key off, and it's stuck open. Well, it's going to continue dumping hydrogen into your air cleaner, and if you're unaware of it, you hit that ignition system, and as soon as you crank it, you hear a nasty explosion. I know my airbox, I blew that thing out of my truck. It went into about 1,000 different pieces, and I'm finding things 100 yards away from where my truck was. My truck was okay. It just blew my airbox completely to smithereens. My collar also did that. And safety is paramount in what we're doing, but if you don't have safety protocol in place, redundant backup check valves and things, you can get yourself in trouble real quick. Well, the thing about what we're doing here is we're not storing hydrogen. If you do store it, you have to separate the hydrogen from the oxygen molecule. You cannot store them both together. And if you do, once you hit a certain PSI, like 38 PSI, it can self-ignite. And there's a strip mall in California, I believe it was like 6, 7, 8 years ago, that these kids that had rented a unit in a strip mall blew that whole strip mall apart, killed them, and it was all because they were storing hydrogen in a 100-gallon tank, and it was not they were not separating the oxygen from the hydrogen, so they were storing them together. So, it's vitally important to adhere to all safety protocols, and there's just, I love playing in the industry, but knowing what we have to do, my system has check valves all throughout, redundant, to make sure if something happens, it does not make it back to the fuel cell itself, to where, I've got a 118 plate system in my vehicle that, it's got a pretty good storage area and volume to where I can put a little bit pressure on it, pressurize it up, still stay under the 38 PSI area, and run it through an injection system. But still, there's even better ways to do that, and that just comes with time and with everything else. And it's a very interesting arena to play in. My generator that I had, I was running it on straight hydrogen. Now, the thing with hydrogen is you have to make sure your fuel cell always has water in it. My air-to-water machine that I built, actually, well, let's just take and this is good to know for some of the people that might be unaware of this. What's an air-to-water machine? Anything that takes the humidity out of the air and converts it into water droplets. And then that drops into a tank, and then you store it. So what's a dehumidifier? It's an air-to-water machine. There's air-to-water machines out on the market for, drinking purposes. But if you took a dehumidifier and you set up a pumping system on there to where instead of, kicking the light on, turning the system off, saying it's time to dump the tank, if you actually took that water, dumped it in a Berkey water filtration system or a zero water, which is much cheaper, system, you have clean, unadulterated water. So with my system, I actually developed it to where I did not have to check my water level in my fuel cell because it was always staying full because, I had my system set to where it would maintain a certain level in my fuel cell, and then whatever was left, it would just store in the tank. And then once the unit hit the full mark, it would actually turn the system off to where I wasn't bringing more water in than what I actually needed. So there's a lot of neat ways and practical ways to help pull yourself off the grid, or, what's your plan B? And obviously, if power goes out, your pumping plants at the water treatment facility goes down as well, even though they do have backup generators. But we all know things can happen, especially when you got a lot of runoff that the water treatment companies, sometimes it can't keep up, and you saw in the news, read in the news many times of contaminants being put out to the public, and the water company doesn't really get right on the ball on letting the public know that they got a health issue. So with this, you always have clean water to drink that doesn't have chlorine, fluoride, chloramine, antibiotics, or any of the other crap that's in our water tables today that filtration systems typically cannot remove.
You hit on a big point, because all our listeners are really into fine drinking water, and actually even have some special kinds of water that are actually treated to make them better than normal water. But what kind of a dehumidifier do you have, or you use, or did you build one? What do you recommend for drinking water that you do?
Just go down, buy yourself instead of buying one of these air-to-water machines from these companies that look like, the ones that used to have the 5-gallon, or still have 5-gallon water bottles up on top of them. I've actually got one of those here, which gave me the idea of a dehumidifier, because those typically have a 1-year warranty on them. And mine lasted for 1 year, 1 month before it broke. And I took the electronics circuit board to my electronics engineer here in Tulsa, and he looked at that and he goes, "Oh my word!" Obviously the manufacturer of the unit was from China, and they used the cheapest electronics and boards that you can humanly buy. In other words, if it's a 1-year warranty, you can pretty much guarantee that pretty soon after that you're going to start having issues. So, we went and looked at developing our own system, and which they had a pretty good system, pretty good filtration system in there. Well, looking at that, going, not everybody's going to be able to afford plus for whatever that air-to-water system is. Looking at a lower cost, we actually went down to Home Depot and bought a dehumidifier and did the same thing. It's set up to do exactly what this system does, not as complex, but, every dehumidifier, it's going to run until that tank gets full. Then the unit's going to shut off. It's going to kick on the light telling you it's time to dump the tank. Dump the tank, you put it back in, turn it back on, and it's off to the races again. Well, if you took that water and you actually dumped it into a Berkey or a zero water filtration system, you have clean water. So that's what I use. That's what I recommend to everybody, that they do get a dehumidifier and try it. Find out
have
that.
You ever heard of Randy, have you ever heard of John Ellis water?
No, I haven't.
We have a guest on. Kelsey, would you like to say a word about that other water that you have?
Hi, thanks so much. So actually it's called John Ellis water. It's created through a Electron 5 machine. There's also an Electron 4 machine that's out there, but they're no longer manufacturing or selling that. We have the Electron 5 now, and it's basically a machine that distills water from the tap hundreds of times, so it heats and cools water hundreds of times, like used to be done with alchemy. And then it also goes through two ozone lights, and it produces two types of water.
Ozone. Is it ozone or is it ultraviolet light?
It would be ultraviolet.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I've got on mine. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. We've since bought a machine, so I don't know all the technicalities of it, but I just have the basic idea since we also sell the water in the United States and locally, and we do ship outside of the U.S., but it produces two types of water. Some is called the energized water, and the other one is just called the distilled water. And basically there's been people that have taken the water and they've measured the amps. Hydrogen bond. The hydrogen bond angle, but they're measuring like the amps with a ammeter for the energy, and there were some people and testimonials on JohnEllis.com, and I also put them on our website, which is newwavewater.club. It's nuwavewater.club, and there's a section for testimonials. And if you just use Command or Control F, that means Command Find on the computer, and you can type in car or hydrogen. And there's a very long testimonial of an individual that took this water and was using it to power his whole house and using it to power cars as well. I don't know the technicalities, but someone like yourself would understand it, I'm sure, if you read his testimonial. And it was just amazing, basically, compared to all the other research and other experiments he had done with trying to use the hydrogen or water to fuel the cars, because this water actually changes the hydrogen bond angle to 114. Normal water, I think, is at 104. And back when there wasn't any cancer, the hydrogen bond angle of water was 108, so this is 104. So it has a lot of different benefits, these machines. And as far as I'm aware, they don't have any big, like, how do I say, like, I don't know how to say, like, big production of these big machines. They're just creating gallons of water at a time, but you only have to take a few gallons of the water into thousands of gallons of a polluted or poisoned lake like they've done, and it will change all of the water in that lake. And they have different testimonials of lagoons that have been totally transformed within a day of just putting in a few gallons of the water, and even in a well, putting a gallon into how many gallons? Anyway, but basic idea is you just have to take a little bit of this water and put it into a big pool of water to where it'll transform it. It's like the water that comes out of this machine. So it's very interesting. If you do want to learn more about it, it's on our website, nuwavewater.club. And there's a video on the front of the website that gives the basic idea, and a lot of it has to do with health for the human body and cleaning up wells and things like this. But on the testimonial section, there is someone there that's talking about using it for fueling cars and houses for energy. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That was wonderful. Yeah, Randy, we got some pretty smart people there listening to your talk show, and she brings up a good point. Maybe you and my caller might want to check out that website and see how they're using water to fuel houses and cars. So that might be something you want to look into.
Right. One of the other projects that I'm tinkering with is my mag drive system, which needs no power source into it. And, you always hear this from everybody that has an alphabet behind their name or multiple alphabets behind their name, which I run into those people all the time that tell me what I'm doing, can't do, it's impossible. I don't have a college degree. I don't have a bachelor's. I don't have an MD. I don't have all the acronyms that they want to use. But it's, you know what? Just because you went to college, you got your degree, doesn't mean you're the smartest steak in the stack. You know, common sense. You see things that actually get your mind to go in a different direction. Think outside the box. I am definitely not an in-the-box thinker. I never have been. It's just not the way the Lord wired me to be. So, you know, I can't hang around with the naysayers, the people that all they want to do is bring you down and take you down a different road. And, well, you think all these engineers went to college and that you're smarter than them. If they couldn't, if they can't do it, what makes you think you can do it? You know, it's only impossible until you make it impossible. And
Randy, I was going to interject just a second there, Randy. I used to be a member of the International Society for Unified Science. Ever heard of that?
No.
And they taught real science. And like, for example, you know what an atom looks like, right? It's got a nucleus with neutrons and protons, and then it has different layers of electrons orbiting around the nucleus, right? Mm-hmm. You're familiar with that, right?
Yes.
Well, did you know that that's absolute nonsense? That model, Niels Bohr's model of an atom, is absolute nonsense, and you can never understand science as long as you believe that that's true.
Yeah, and once you've been taught.
Well, my point is, going to the university, you're just being brainwashed in a science that's, what do they call that, old-fashioned science that was all gobbledygook. That's all they're teaching in the universities. You're not getting an education. So, like you say, when you go off on your own and you think outside the box, and you know you're going to get a lot farther than you are when you're brainwashed with a false teaching and false premises.
Exactly, and I'm at a point to where, you know, yes, if somebody sends me a video, I'll go in and watch it. And how can they do this? How can they do that? You know, well, with the mag drive, any magnetic propulsion system, they tell you there's no such thing as perpetual motion. Impossible. It violates every law out there. And it's like, well, you know, they told Joseph Newman that as well. And he's got a machine that no energy input, but a whole lot of energy output. And that has been certified, but that man has been trying to get a world patent on that for, I believe, since the early 60s, and he is so defiant now because they will not give him a patent on his technology. And it's been proven, it's been documented, but there again, if they don't want it out there, it's not going to come out. Oh, you know, they say no such thing as perpetual motion, but, you know, I've only been on this planet for 59 years.
In this lifetime. Randy.
In this lifetime. And every day, the sun comes up, the sun goes down. Sun comes up, sun goes down. You know, I brought up the point that, well, that's perpetual motion. No, it's not. The sun will eventually lose its energy and go, well, you know what? I don't see that happening in my lifetime. And so I say that's perpetual motion. But with what my mag drive I'm developing, and there's other people that have already developed mag drive systems. Actually, the government has one. And you see your maglev trains.
Yeah, could you explain what you mean by a mag drive? I'm not sure that I know what you mean by a mag drive.
Okay, magnetic drive means there is no energy input into the unit whatsoever. There is no batteries, there's no cords, there's nothing that is being pulled to make a magnetic field to where, like your normal AC or DC motors, not engine motor. I'm talking like your starters or your alternators and things like that. This runs off magnets. And it's only a very small unit that I'm playing with, but I can run with that really small unit every light in my home at zero cost. You know, and by the way, these bulbs are DC LED lights, not what you buy at Lowe's, Home Depot, or Walmart. These are, those have a to D inside of them that converts it from, because there's no such thing as a AC LED. They're all DC, but they use a to D converter in them, a little transformer to change it over from a square wave to a sine wave, and that's what you plug into your, screw into your light sockets. So,
well, you mean a rectifier that turns AC into DC is what you're saying? Correct. Right.
And anyway, if you run a straight DC LED that goes off direct current, then I can run every light in your home with this device, with my little tiny little mag drive system. So it's, and if you can build it on a small scale, if you have the funds available, everything's scalable. If you do it on a small scale, you can do it on a larger scale. So ultimately, and that little unit weighs, 3 to 5 pounds. So it's not a very big unit, but there's things that I'm looking at developing, is taking a simple system, using wasted energy that you're wasting. Every home waste right now, especially if you're running central heat and air. You've got a big blower motor outside your house that when that unit's on, it's pumping out a whole lot of air. You ever heard of a wind machine or a wind turbine as far as wind power?
Absolutely.
Why not take wasted energy and utilize it to where it's already running? So if you take that energy, you put a wind device on there, you can generate power off that, and what do you think that's going to do to your power bill?